Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Straight cash, homie.
Hold on to your butts.
Finally! After 6 long weeks, the Bears have finally gotten a win, a big W, just to save face, I would say. The Bears win 36-7. That defense showed up to play.
That's for sure, man. And luckily the offense showed up in the first half, and it wasn't the offense from the second half. But they definitely got the win. The defense was in there. I mean, it's Deshaun with a depleted roster. I mean, I don't want to make excuses for the guy. I mean, we know what he can do, but it's tough to win when you're running second and third stringers in there all the time. Hey, and then Duke Johnson went out as well.
Yeah, that is true. I think that one hurt him the most. I'll say this: it's the NFL. The Texans have been in games recent weeks. They've been right in ball games in recent weeks. So for me, it's don't look past them. But you are right. They are a little depleted. But you gotta look to the Bears defense. That Bears defense stepped up. Where were they? Like where have they been? I know that like you said, I know they're depleted, but they are NFL players, and they have been playing decent enough to stay in games in recent weeks. But this was just a blowout. Like the Bears flat out ran over their ass.
Yeah, no, 100%. The turnovers killed them. Whether it be the fumble at returning the kick, or it's the strip of Deshaun, or I mean, it was just bad from the get go for them. I mean, there was no salvage in that.
Well, let's go ahead and switch over to your game because we got a couple of our guests coming on in a little bit. Going to talk Bears, but a game that was huge for the Bears. The Bucs versus the Vikings. Bucs needed a win. Vikings definitely needed a win, and we definitely needed the Vikings to lose. And thanks for taking care of business, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and you guys are tied now, aren't you?
Yes, but they do hold the advantage for now.
Yeah.
For now, because we'll have to play them one more time. But it was 7-6 for a while. 20 minutes, like we said, 20 minutes at 7-6.
Well, I'll tell you.
And then all of a sudden, boom! Here comes Tampa Bay. But you got to. The Vikings were in the game. Like it wasn't. They didn't just. Tampa Bay didn't just run away with it. The Vikings were in the game. But here's what happened. You only gave Dalvin Cook 30 yards in the second half.
Yeah, you got to live and learn. They lived in that set at first because I mean he was just going to town. It was like 10 minutes, 12 minutes into the game, and the dude already had like almost 60, 70 yards. It's like, oh my God, here we go. But yeah, I mean, like they went in halftime, clamped down, and did exactly what we told. You know what? Look what happened when they stopped Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins couldn't do jack. Jason Pierre-Paul, which I talked about in the pregame, came up with a huge strip sack. So they did well. I mean, they did great. The person that you guys need to be congratulating is your boy over there in Minnesota, Dan Bailey, for missing all those field goals. Not that they really would have mattered, but hey, less points is better, So
it really matters, dude. I mean, it matters.
Yeah, it does. It's good in the long run. Good in the long run.
Look, 23-26 is worlds of difference from 26 to 14. That's a huge swing. We're talking about we're talking about one possession game at that point with any type of mistake helping that could help the underdog team. And I mean, give credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did what they had to do. Like they like I said, they had no time of possession. They weren't able to hold the ball very, very much in the first half, and then all of a sudden, boom! They just came out of nowhere. They were able to score, and they pretty much controlled it from there on out. The one thing I'm sure that you would like to see is still an emphasis on running the football. Ronald Jones had 80 yards. LaShawn McCoy had 4 for 32. But, I mean, that's good. But in the first half, it was looking bleak. It was looking
it was. That's kind of the thing about Tampa that I've been noticing over these last 5 or 6 games. They just don't come out fast. They come out kind of slow, and it's almost kind of weird because it's like if they come out slow and they don't get much going, then I don't know if that's what's his name, Leftwich. I don't know if that's a Leftwich thing where he's kind of dialing it back, or if it's that Bruce thing, Or is it Tom doing it at the line? I mean, there's three people over there that could all be pointing the finger at the other guy, so you never know. But it's they got to start coming out faster. Like there's no way you have that kind of firepower on offense and don't just try to just punch somebody in the mouth with them. I mean, you have three talented receivers that could do it plus a tight end.
Well, it's I feel like they're in a spot where the Bears are. I mean, today they looked a little better, but they're in a spot that the Bears were like, who are we? What team would we want to be? What team should we be? And to be honest with you, you should be a team similar to what the Patriots were early in Tom's career. Not that Tom's a dummy,
right?
But similar to what you saw earlier in time, you should just be a running team with a really good defense, and they can be that. I feel like sometimes their coach, their offensive coordinator, they might force they force Tom to kind of focus on more impact plays, more big plays. I think dialing it down and going and focusing on the run. They gave Ronald Jones 18 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. That's good. I just need to see those numbers up. I want to see like I'm sure you are. You want 25 carries.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think here's my. I mean, call me crazy, but you look at the receiving core you have. I understand most teams want to come out first play of the game. Let's run. Let's run. Establish the run. I don't think Tampa's that team. I think Tampa needs to come out and establish the downfield passing, and that will allow the run game to open up. Once the defense is backing up, then you come back in underneath them, and then you'll be able to get your yards. But either way, to me, 18 carries for Ronald Jones still ain't enough. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'd like to see him at least 25 touches. But I mean, I guess when you're winning a game, you could go to a little Shady or whoever else. But I don't know. I just feel like Tampa is the reverse team. They need to start passing down the field in order to get their run game going, not vice versa.
Well, they got the win, and it was huge for us, and it was huge for them. But right now, I want to go ahead and bring on my our guy. Big, huge win for the Bears. We're going to go back to the Bears. Big, huge win for the Bears, and we've been waiting for this forever. We're finally going to get a victory Monday. And for the first time, and it seemed, 2 months almost? First time in damn near 2 months, we're going to get a victory. But let's go ahead and let's bring on my guy. You know, starting mine in the morning. I call him El Jefe. He is our boy, Sean, the Superback Sierra. Sean, we got a victory, baby.
Yeah, great. I am happy that the Bears were able to pull this one out, but man, you know what? It's still a train wreck. There was a lot of good things that we saw today, but don't forget they're going against a bad team as well. This is a situation where I think it's pretty evident. I hope I'm not jinxing it, but that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are gone. So what you want to do then is you really want better draft position. You don't want to be 10, 12, 16. Whatever, because then you're kind of in limbo. You don't get a game breaking player. I'm happy for the Bears. I love ran the ball. Obviously the first play, but they were consistent with running the ball. And there's a crazy idea: keep running the ball. I would have liked more. Dave Montgomery only had 11 carries. 11 for 113, and 80 came on 1. So that means 10 for 33 yards. That's still not a good average. So I needed him to be fed more, and it just bugs me that just because you got a lead that you go away from certain things. It's just typical Matt Nagy play calling, Bill Lazor / Matt Nagy play calling. This game should have been over a long time ago. They should have been running the ball. Keep that clock moving, made it a shorter game, but they didn't. Not too bad. I'm pretty happy about Trubisky. What was it? 24 of 33 or 267, 3 tutties, no picks, 126.7 quarterback rating. Hey, we'll take that. Trubisky looked good. He looked good. And despite the fact that this was a team that was under 500, they're still an NFL team. Let's not get it twisted. Okay. So for him to be able to do that against an NFL team is still, we know he's had flashes of brilliance. Okay, he's had flashes of brilliance that have given us false hope in the past.
Right.
But if he was just able to do this, or the plays were being able to, or were called this way, the the beginning of the season when he took over, and then when in the last few games, I think it might be a different story. But I don't think he's back, and if he is, I think it'll be in a backup role. I'm happy. I'm happy for the boys. It's always nice to win a game on Sunday because those are very, very difficult to come by. I'm just not I'm not ecstatic, as you can see about it, just because you see the draft position that we're going to get, because they're going to do something stupid and go and try and run the rest of the table. All right, try and get in the playoffs or miss it by that much. And then now we're still 16, 18, in the draft in the draft position. And as I said a few minutes ago, now we can get a good player. We don't have a game-changing player at 16 or 18. So, and if we do decide to pull the trigger and fire Nagy and Pace, you want to set up the new regime, whoever it may be, with a decent first-round draft pick, top 10, top 5. Okay. I think Allen Robinson had a really nice game. Saying, hey guys, it's my penultimate, my next to last game here as a Chicago Bear because I ain't coming back. With nine catches, 123 and a tutty for him. So a lot of good things. Cole Kmet, we had a nice Cole Kmet sighting today, 4 for 41. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Graham, I'm just bigger and stronger than you, and you can't do anything about it. So I'm gonna catch this touchdown. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that we've been clamming for all year. Why wasn't this consistent all year? Why doesn't Jimmy Graham have like 15 touchdown catches in the red zone this year? Why? Why? Because you're freaking selfish and you're stubborn. Keep doing it until someone stops it.
Luke and I were just saying at the half. Well, me, Luke, and Brandon. It's funny that you say it's like what if you just let Mitch lose the game to Atlanta, even if you lost. If he came back, great. If you lost, whatever, and you let him play the next week or two, and if he screws up, then make the move. Well, how about this? How about you do what you're doing as far as play calling for Mitch back then? Because I feel like that's where they were on their way to that. But then all of a sudden in Atlanta, you saw Matt Nagy come out because he wanted to go ahead and just impose his will, his philosophy on the Atlanta defense, and they weren't having it. Do you think if he would have just allowed it, Mitch to play and done focus more on the types of plays that we saw today, rollouts, quick, get it out quick, have a running back out as a safety net, and how about running the ball even? Do you think that it'd be a different type of offense?
Well, this you can tell Bill Lazor called this game for the most part. How many times did you see a receiver coming out? We had a rollout. It was fake to the fake handoff to the left. Okay, he rolled back to the right, or bootleg to the right. He had a receiver coming underneath. And how many times did we see him wide open? How many times did we see this guy wide open? Okay, these are some of the plays that you see a whole bunch of other NFL teams running, and we hadn't run those. We ran those today. The one thing, and to answer your question, Ivan, the one thing that I've said for the longest since his first year is that Matt Nagy doesn't call plays, doesn't put Mitch Trubisky in the best position to be successful. He doesn't call games that fit his skill set. Well, today the game was called to fit his skill set. And since they were playing a team that they were evenly yoked, they were able to really, as you see, blow them out. Much to my surprise, didn't they have 30 and a half? I was like, dude, what the hell was that? Like, where the hell is 30 points? Dude, we're lucky to get 30 points in 2 games, most of the season. And now we're getting 30 points at the half. And a lot of it is a play calling because you see Bill Lazor tailoring his play calling to the strength of Mitch Trubisky. I know that's a novel idea, and I don't know if anyone else knows about it, but put your players in the best position to be successful. Call plays that work for them so it works for the team, not plays that work for you to make you look like the smartest guy in the room. And that's what Bill Lazor has done the last couple of weeks, even though last week they lost. They should have won that game last week, and now we'd be talking about a 2-game win streak if it wasn't for Jermaine Ifedi and not being able to block the defensive end. Okay, so you see improvement. And this is what I want. I want to see improvement from Mitch. I still want him to do well. I just don't want Nagy back next year because, the only way, and that's like a 0.00001% chance of him coming back as head coach next year that I would be happy with is if he literally relinquished all play calling duties and said, "Hey, listen, I'm just the CEO of all this. Okay, you can do this." Because look what happens when you get a lead. Look what that defense can do. 5 sacks, 6 sacks today. Okay, when you don't have, and this is not a statuesque quarterback that they were going after. Okay, this is not a statuesque quarterback that they were going after. Imagine if this was a statuesque quarterback. We're talking 8 to 10 sacks today, because he got out of a lot of jams. We're talking double-digit sacks today. If that wasn't Deshaun Watson back there at quarterback for the Houston Texans. Because why? Because now you can pin your ears back. Now you know damn well they're not running the ball. You know damn well Khalil Mack's being shot out of a cannon. You know damn well that this defense is pinning their ears back and getting ready to go. And this is what happens. This defense look like a championship defense again. Give them a lead and let them go to work. And we just haven't been able to get them a lead for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Well, you know what, and that's a good point, Sean. And it was funny because I was talking to Mike throughout the game, and he was texting me. He's like, "Finally, we saw a blitz on 3rd down." And you know, with that, I'm leading into that's a good segue because we had Mike with us, and Michael Halatek, my co-host from the Barely Pregame Show and Halatek Hall. He was on point with pretty much everything he predicted today, and I want to bring him on because, like, man, Mike. You were on fire with everything you called it during the Barely Pregame Show.
Hey, hi guys. Yeah, it was nice to be right for a change. So let's have some fun with this. Get the running game going. Check. Take the ball away. Check. Use some gimmick plays. Check. Have fun and play to win. Check, check, check. Yeah, it was a fun day, absolutely all the way around. I think the only negatives that you really want to take away from this game was the fact that they didn't score when they got the fumble and had the ball to start early in the first half, which really could have set the tone even better than what it did. They ended up punting that ball, and on their second touchdown drive, when Anthony Miller did not come up to field the punt, and it cost him 13 yards. It turned out not to hurt him, but all in all, one hell of a game for the most part on all 3 sides of the ball, all 3 phases.
You know, it's been fun this past couple weeks, even though last week was a shitty ending. But it's been fun looking at 30 points on the board. It's been fun seeing points scored. It's been fun watching people in the end zone for the Chicago Bears. Now, and Sean, I know your fear is they're going to go ahead and try to run the table, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Don't get me wrong. That's exactly what they're going to try to do because that's what this coaching staff is going to try to motivate their team for, try to save their ass. But for me, let's look at it like this because I feel like, and I mentioned it before, that I feel like we're only going to get half of what we want in Chicago. And I like the more I look at it, the more I'm leaning towards it's going to be Ryan Pace than Matt Nagy that's going to get the axe. If they continue this, and like you said, if Matt Nagy just surrenders all play calling and just focuses on being the CEO, and they go ahead, they run the table. Let's say even if they lose to the Packers, let's say they make it a ball game, and they lose to the Packers, and you see progression with the offense. Do you think that a Matt Nagy going? And I'm sure Mitch won't be around next year. But do you think they'll give Matt Nagy a better shot with running going and drafting a guy and getting his guy at quarterback and allowing other people to just run the offense and him just be the player's coach? Do you think that'll work for the Bears? Because right now I feel like I feel like you're absolutely right. They're going to try to run the table, but whose benefit is it?
Well, here's the issue. They very well could. You got Jacksonville coming up, and they're not world beaters. You have Minnesota Vikings. We can still handle those guys. And then you need one good game against Green Bay at home. Okay, so there is a little legitimate chance that they can run the table, especially with the way the play calling is going. If the play calling continues to be called as such, and guess what? That defense is going to continue to play as such because we're going to be able to get a lead. So here's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that they do run the table. They do get into the playoffs via wild card. They do get past the wild card round. They do get to the preliminary rounds, the divisional round, and God forbid they win that game. God forbid they win that game, because if that's it, then there's no way, shape, or form that Pace and Nagy are gone. So if they get into the playoffs and win at least one game, it would even be tough to see them make the playoffs, lose in a wild card round, and still have Nagy and Pace fired. Because what's going to happen, and if this, I'm looking big picture. If this works out this way, then I'll be okay with it. If Matt Nagy, as I just said earlier, and you reiterated, if he takes his hands off, take your freaking grubby hands off that offense, let somebody else call it, let Bill Lazor continue to do that. You know what? Then you do bring Mitch back, because now Mitch has got. But you also don't get me twisted. He's not the automatic starter. You got him, you got Foles, and then you got somebody else that you better draft in the first or second round. So now you have competition, but. Now you see what this offense can truly look like. If we're able to put up 20 with this defense, I think all of us can agree this, except for the fact that it looks like they at some points that they've really checked out. We know this is a championship defense. You give this defense 30 points, except for last week. I think you're in a pretty good situation most of the time. And if you can get 20 to 30 points on a regular basis with the play calling of Bill Lazor, then I don't know if you want to mess with this, but we need to see. You got Jacksonville, which is another crappy team, and you have to understand there's not strong teams that they're playing. Okay, the next strong team that they're playing is Green Bay, last game of the year. So if you can, the next 2 weeks, if you can put up again 30 points, have this defense 4, 5, 6 sacks, 4, 5, or 6 pressures, maybe should have had an interception by Eddie Jackson, which would have been his first of the year. You start doing that, and all of a sudden things reconsider. You know how loyal that the McCaskies are to their people, and they're just looking for a way. And if they beat Green Bay, it's going to be Green Bay and 2 get into the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get rid of those 2.
And you know what, Mike? It's a similar question. Like if they get to the playoffs. Is it enough? Is it enough to win? What if it's just one win? What if it's just one playoff win and they run the table? Do you think that'll be enough, or like Sean says, does it have to be the NFC Championship game or bust for the Chicago Bears?
That's a great question. If the Bears make it to the playoffs, they're not going to change anything. That's my opinion. Why would you change that? I mean, look at the turmoil that this organization went through when Lovie Smith, who just got fired by the University of Illinois, when he won 10 games, but they didn't make the playoffs, and he got let go, and there was a tremendous amount of turmoil back then, and it set the team back 10 years in terms of making the playoffs. They haven't come close, save for 2018. So if this team gets hot and we finally get a chance to see what this offense can do, because they've got the tools around Trubisky, with the exception of what was an abysmal offensive line. This was the 3rd week in a row they played the same 5 starters on the offensive line, and look what happened. They played a solid game all game long. What did they let up? Maybe 2 or 3 sacks. The last sack, it was Trubisky actually made a good decision to hang on to the ball and not throw it into coverage and risk an interception. So if I'm a betting man, I'm saying that the Bears, if they make the playoffs, they're going to go into next year with everybody intact.
Man, and you know what, Luke, I'm sure you feel the same way, because we've mentioned it before. It's like these guys they're in a position where we don't know. We still don't know what the team's identity is, which it should be run the football with David Montgomery. And we still don't know if Matt Nagy is fully capable of stepping away, because like you said, what if next year what if we win? Right? Let's say, what if we win out? We get to the playoffs, we win what's just one, and they keep him. Is he going to jump right back in the saddle and try to do it running himself, or is he going to be is he going to be selfless enough to be like, hey, maybe I need to sit and learn myself and watch myself? Because, I mean, he has to be constantly learning. You have to be constantly learning as a head coach as well. You can't just sit back and be like, well, I'm a head coach now, I know all. As a coach, Sean, you are constantly learning on the fly. You're constantly putting information through your brain and trying to process it. It's a necessity almost. So for me, I feel like, is he going to be able to adjust? Is he going to be able to be that guy? I don't know. The second part of that is, and I'm asking you, do you think Matt Nagy will be that guy going into next year? But my second part question to that is, if they dump Ryan Pace, what do you think this next GM, regardless of who he is, What do you think for his first action should be? Well, what should the first action? Every move from here on out is an important move because we've seen this story too often. The Bears need change. So what is it like? What is the first move of the GM coming in? Of the new GM coming in?
Who are you asking?
Yeah.
Luke.
Okay. Yeah, I tell you the truth, I don't think either of them are going to be there. I think that this quarterback conundrum that's been going on all year, this Matt Nagy not taking accountability, I think it's a perfect storm for everybody to be gone. But let's say, by chance it's just Nagy and Pace is there. That quarterback position needs to be remedied fast. You could draft it. You could get some linemen out of the draft, but that quarterback position it's been your Achilles heel for, a long time now. It's time to fix that and find somebody that's going to right your ship that you can move forward with. Even if that's bringing in a veteran, maybe they make a trade for Dak, but it's got to be somebody that can get you there because you do not want to have this. You just don't want to be the laughing stock anymore of like, oh, let's just go ahead and watch the Bears' follies whenever they get on offense. So, and then, like I said, the line obviously to protect that quarterback, but I feel like the quarterback position is going to be the most crucial thing that they're going to have to do no matter which way it shakes out at the end of this season.
But what happens if they don't do anything? If this, Mike brought up a phenomenal point, which I was going to bring up and you beat me to it because obviously great minds think alike. When you have the same offensive line 3 weeks in a row, when you finally have continuity, okay, that's a whole different thing. You might be playing with guys who are not first round picks, but there's a chemistry that's developed. There's a bond. They're playing in step with each other, and that's the most important thing. So you might be able to get away with a Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles and somebody you draft. And what if you do make the playoffs and you're in that 16-18 range and you can't find a game-changing quarterback? At that point, I go best offensive lineman. Give me the best tackle, okay? Give me the best tackle because I like Daniels at one guard. I like Whitehair at the other guard, and I like Mustapher so far at center. Okay, so now we have those three. We added first round tackle to our left, and now we go. And if they can stay healthy, because don't forget, that's the name of the game. You stay healthy, man, and let's also not forget that there shouldn't be COVID restrictions next year. So you're going to have organized team activities or OTAs as they're called. You're going to have involuntary mini camps, and you're going to have all these things where teams are going to be able to have reps together. And so that was a big part of it that we're not discussing. And don't get me wrong, it affects everybody, but I can give a rat's ass about everybody. I care about my Bears. And so it affected us in that way. Hopefully without it happening for 2021, it's going to be a different story. And all you're adding is a left tackle, a first round left tackle if you can't get a good quarterback. And then I'm really liking that situation. And I'll bring back Mitch Trubisky on a 1-year deal because look how comfortable. Answer this for me. How comfortable did Mitch look today?
He looked like he had no worries.
None. He had exactly, and that's what Mitch played well. How many times did we say, "God bless it, Mitch, don't throw that stupid ball today"?
No, there's a couple times. There's a couple times where the national broadcast were like, "Oh, he couldn't throw that ball." I was like, man, he put it right over his shoulder. I was like, man, he pulled a Mahomes and went sidearm, while getting tackled, trying to make a play, and the ball was still decently placed. But it wasn't a bonehead. There wasn't bonehead throws. There wasn't any erraticness.
What about the last sack? The last sack, it was a coverage sack. And instead of trying to throw it in the coverage, how many times have we seen Mr. Trubisky sit in the coverage because he's getting pressure? What did he do? He just ate it. I'll take the sack. We can punt and put our defense on the field. Mitch Trubisky has grown a lot. Okay, I'm not putting him in Canton by any stretch. Okay, don't get it twisted. But what I will say is there's been a lot of improvement with him, and trust me, when you're embarrassed nationally, like when they took him out of that game, it was the Atlanta game. They took him out of the Atlanta game, and they showed him on the sideline sulking, and he didn't play for God knows how many weeks. There's an inventory that you have to take of yourself, and I think Mitch did. Combine that with the new play caller and Bill Lazor, who understands Mitch's strengths and says, "I'm going to use Mitch. I'm going to call plays to his strength." this is the most comfortable I've seen Mitch since that Tampa game a couple of years ago. And again, I think Mitch can be a good stopgap for another year. Him and Foles, I think, will be good for another year until we can find and get that quarterback that we feel is going to lead us to the next level, to consistent playoff appearances. But I'm okay, and I never thought I'd say this, but I'm okay with this Mitch and Bill and this offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, as long as they're married together and he's calling the plays for Mitch, I'm okay with it. Just we got to figure out what the hell we're going to do with Allen Robinson, because I don't think he wants to come. And you know, but maybe he wants to come back. Who knows? We don't know.
You know, Sean, Mike, I'm going to let you respond. But right before, it's a good point, because they were saying Allen Robinson made a play, and they were just talking to him about how he was proud of the guys in the locker room. Like he plays for the guys in the locker room, essentially. Like they've stuck together in that locker room. And Mike, that's kudos to Matt Nagy. He hasn't completely lost it with some players. I just felt like, man, maybe they were just sleepwalking for the first part of the season. Maybe they didn't have anything to believe in. And now with Mitch and this offense putting up 30 points in 2 weeks, maybe they have something to believe in now.
30 and then 36 points in consecutive weeks. When is the last time we saw anything like that from? And this was mostly offense. Mm-hmm. The one time they got the ball because of a defensive takeaway, they didn't score. I think they scored on the fumble on special teams. But I think there was only a field goal. So that's 33 of the 36 points. It was all generated by Mitch Trubisky and this offense. You're absolutely right, all of you. Mitch looked more comfortable in this game than he has in the 4 years he's been here. Without question, he looked far more comfortable. He's in sync with Lazor. Exactly what Sean said earlier. He's in sync. Matt Nagy, you guys were talking about this just a couple of minutes ago. If the Bears get hot, they have to play at Minnesota next week, at Jacksonville the week after, and then they finish up the season in Green Bay. And Green Bay might not have anything to play for back by then. Green Bay fell behind 7-0 at Detroit to start the game, but they came back with a touchdown to tie the game. 7 minutes left in the first quarter at 7. If I got to tell you guys, it would be extremely difficult for this Bears team to not stay exactly where they're at, with the exception of adding and bolstering the offensive line going into the draft. Their defense is starting to get a little bit old, and there's going to be maybe a cap casualty or two unless they do some restructuring of some major contracts of guys like Hicks and Fuller, and maybe Foles, and maybe even Jimmy Graham. If you can't restructure those contracts, the Bears are in a world of trouble. And EJ Snyder from Windy City Gridiron was on our show, Halitech Hall, this past week. And, he was very specific about all the dead cap money that would be on the books for next year. And it was over $100 million on some of these guys that people are saying we should get rid of. You can't just get rid of players because of dead cap hits on the salary cap. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens these next 2 weeks. But the Bears are in they have to be in championship mode 1 week at a time, starting next week in Minnesota.
Before I let you guys go, just Minnesota, like you said, we got Minnesota next week. And I want to know, the real question is, do you believe that they get the win next week? After the loss they took to the Vikings prior, do you think they get the win? Do you believe that this defense is going to continue to fly high, or do you believe that this is just the Texans and they were able to? This was like a get right game, like a medicine game. They were able to get off. Everybody pat each other on the back, feel good. Maybe you gain some type of motivation, or do you think this was just this is a fluke? This is fool's gold. Sean, I'll let you go first.
It's this offense. Minnesota is not a world beaters either. They're 6-6 going into today's game. Okay, so we're talking about teams that are evenly yoked with the Bears. We're all in the same grouping. So give me an offensive game that is called very similar to this, which means we're able to move the ball. We're able to score some points. We're keeping that defense rested, and you see what that defense can do when that defense is rested. So I don't think it's a fluke, especially the next two games. I don't think it's a fluke. I think it worked out well that we're playing the Vikings who are evenly yoked with us. Then we're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars who are god awful. So now we have two teams that we're as good as or better than. So we should come out, if Bill Lazor continues to call the games like he has today, we should come out with 2 victories, and then it'll be a lot of pressure on that last game. So I don't think it's a fluke. I just think it's if you're playing up against a much better defense, maybe it's not the same. But we're not. We're playing against the Houston Texans. That's who we had to play, and it was good enough to beat the Texans. So now I think it'll be good enough next week to beat the Vikings.
Mike, same question.
The Vikings lost today down in Tampa, so they're now dead even with the Bears.
Yep.
Record. So everything broke the right way for the Bears. That was one team that had to lose, and it did. So Sean's right. There's no reason to think the Bears can't go up to Minnesota, where they have played well ever since that new stadium opened up, and play well and beat this team, especially if this offense that we've seen the last 2 weeks shows up again.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because it's been fun. I mean, it's like I said last week. I wish we would have got that win last week. It was almost like that had to be the end. I hope that's the end. I hope this is truly the end of whatever shit stretch that was. And the Bears can look forward to greener pastures, because, the middle of this season, this was a very humbling part of the year for the Bears, and humbling for both the defense that was riding high, a top-notch defense, and a head coach who had won a Coach of the Year, and who was thinking that his team was going to be these world beaters like the Chiefs would be, and he's just looking, he's kind of looking flustered. But hopefully that, like you said, hopefully this continues. Guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming on. We're gonna go ahead and start with Mike. Mike, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find us and your work online.
You can find us in several places. Of course, Ivan and I also do 2 shows together. We do the Barely pregame show right here on the Sports Zone Chicago network. We also do the Halitech Hall show Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8 on this network. You can also find me personally at Texter420. That's TEKSTER 420 on Twitter. Halitech Hall is on Twitter, and Halitech Hall is also on Facebook. So you can find us at any of those places. And just a quick shout out to Joshua and Millie and Mashun, I hope I'm saying his name right, for the comments that they put up on this show this afternoon.
Sean, go ahead.
Guys, you can check me out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sean and Maya in the morning, 9 a.m. to noon Central Standard Time, with my guy Ivan, my Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife, running the show behind the scenes. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, all the same handle at the Sean Sierra. So check me out on those platforms. You can follow us here on Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Sports Zone Chi, CHI. Follow us on Instagram, Sports Zone Chicago. Okay, and follow us. Follow our YouTube page, or subscribe to our YouTube page, Sports Zone Chicago, and definitely download the app. So wherever you get your apps from, okay, download Sports Zone Chicago.
You heard him. Go do it. Go do it. Hey, thanks, guys. Well, hopefully we'll see you next week. Hopefully we're talking about another Bears victory. From this point, I'll say this before I let you go. From this point on, if they win, just freaking win. Just choose a direction, because I can't do this. I got a bunch of grays in my beard now. I'm looking like Sean. It's great. It's great. All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right, now.
Guys, that was Michael Halitech and Sean Sierra. It's true though, dude. Choose a direction. choose a direction. What do you want to do? You want to rebuild, or do you want to win right now? Do you want to like? Are you going to fire your GM, or are you going to keep both? Like it doesn't. It's a weird spot. It's a weird spot, not only for draft position, but for the franchise.
It's 100% right. I mean, and this is kind of what we touched on a long time ago when we were talking about the quarterback swap and how that's going to make him look silly by putting Mitch back in at the end of the year. So you lose all these games. You've got the debacle in the front office and the head coach position. I'm sorry if I'm the Bears, I'm cutting all my losses. Like I'm not allowing this clown show to go on any longer. Everybody's gone. I don't care. Done. But then, like I said, a quarterback, you don't necessarily have to draft a quarterback. You can still get a quarterback and still draft a high lineman. It doesn't matter. But I mean, I'd rather to me, if I'm the Bears, I want an established quarterback. I don't want to play this rookie game anymore. Especially if we don't know who the coach is going to be. So, you got to run that by them as well. But to me, I'm looking at making a splash trade, getting rid of some of that cap money. And having a solid quarterback, someone that's going to at least be there for like the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Do you go and bring in Sam Darnold, keep Mitch on a 1-year deal, and let that? Well, then where do you go?
I don't care how many quarterbacks. I don't care how many quarterbacks they bring in for competition. It's a competition among. You might as well bring Mark Sanchez and a couple other. Let's bring Orton back. I mean, like all these quarterbacks that they're talking about, all these quarterbacks though are garbage though. Like to me,
you're talking about Sam Darnold who played for the Jets, and you're
right.
Garbage. Like come on, like you could if they give him a line, and I agree with you that they have to go ahead and really you have to draft offensive line, find a couple guys off the street that can fill in. But I feel like you're not going to find your quarterback. Hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like in the third round or later, they find a guy that's the guy. But right now, I feel like you have to look. You have to look at every type of situation to find this, to solve this, because it's been too long. Sid Luckman, it's not knocking on Mr. Luckman, but sir, I'm watching you in black and white. Like it's like those times are long gone. Jim McMahon, I've met Jim McMahon before. Jim McMahon's looking kind of older. Not no disrespect to him, but these our quarterbacks that we look up like. We look to who are the best. Even Cutler. It's like, man. It's like, man.
That's my point. That's my point.
One's too old, the other one's older, and the other one pretty much didn't do shit. Like it's just been frustrating to be a Bears fan. You can't point to a couple guys or really one guy that's the guy. It's Jim McMahon isn't Brett Favre. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not. He's not Deshaun Watson. He was great in his own right, and I love him. But you need a guy. That's
what I'm saying.
You need to find a guy.
Dude, I'm looking heavily into Dak Prescott, and I'm looking heavily into Matt Stafford. I don't care. Matt Stafford is ready to get out of Detroit. Like he's been there long enough. They have to cut him loose and let him go win somewhere.
If we're talking about Stafford, I'm with you.
Right. Yeah, Stafford or Dak. I'll take either of them. But like my other thing is too is if you don't correct the quarterback issue, and you've already put out this, hey, look at us, we're the Chicago Bears. Come to the big tent. We'll be there with the red noses on. Who's going to want to come catch a ball for either of those two bozos? Nobody. Robinson's gone, and then what? You're going to tell me that Mooney and Miller and those guys are going to take that giant next step? Like no, you're going to lose other things because of keeping somebody. You know what I mean? That's why this is the worst possible scenario for the Chicago Bears, because they have a whole novel of issues that they need to fix in the offseason. And I wish I could sit here and tell you like the best path, but I don't even see a clear path. This is going to be one of those, over the hill, around the river, over across the ocean. It's gonna take everything that they got to get, and they're gonna have to get a smart head in there too if they get rid of that GM, someone that makes sense and can make sense out of the debacle that they have going on right now.
Well, they got the win today. Next step, next stop is Minnesota, and if they beat Minnesota, they're gonna go try to beat Jacksonville's ass. And if they beat Jackson, it's if you give a mouse a cookie type of scenario.
That's what I'm saying. Like, right? It's just they're in the worst possible predicament right now, and going into next season, like it is the most catastrophic thing. And I mean, everybody can point fingers at everybody, but the only person needs to be looking in the mirror and saying, "I fucked up," is anybody with the last name McCaskey. That's it.
You know, I'm not even. I'm going to end it at that. We're going to leave the Bears at that because that was a great point you just made. Right now, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of games that we're going to break down before we got into the Bears so heavily. Colts versus Raiders. Raiders just got just scored another touchdown. It is now 14-10. Raiders over the Colts. The Derek Carr is 7 for 10, 129, 2 touchdowns. See, the thing is that it makes me nervous is Josh Jacobs, 4 carries, 18 yards, and Devontae Booker 2 for 9. Got to get that up. You got to run the football because if you look on the other side, you got Phillip Rivers, 8 of 12, 102 and a touchdown, and you got Taylor for 7 for 40, and you got Naheem Hines 5 for 16. You could get outpaced by the Colts. The Colts could run your ass over. So you need to be careful. You need to be careful if you're the Raiders. You need to figure out how you're going to run the football to control the clock, and you got to run for first downs.
Mm-hmm. And if you're not running, you're just letting that defense be fresher longer. And because we know Rivers can move the ball down the field, they can run, they can give their defense a rest. But if you're going out there every time and bang 3 and out, defense back out, you're going to set yourself up for a world of hurt. They have to find some way to tire the middle of that defense down, because that's where we've seen the people that that beat the Colts is by wearing them down. Really, I mean they run them. They're able to run. They're able to put pressure on that front 7, and then after everything develops after that. But I mean I would have thought Josh Jacobs would have been off to a better start, but they must have his number today.
Dude, check this out. Nelson Aguilar.
Mm-hmm.
You know him from
Nowhere. I mean Philly.
Nowhere. From Philly, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Stone Hands Aguilar.
No, he's coming on over there.
1-yard touchdown pass. He has 6 on the year. Talk about a change of scenery, making turning a player, making a player better. Like,
mm-hmm.
Is that a detriment to the pass? Like, I don't know. Maybe not. Like, there was some open passes that he just dropped. Maybe he just focused. Maybe he just was like, hey, I'm just going to go hit the jugs machine all night. Like, I'm going to sit there, maybe like catch after, focus in on the ball. I don't know. Kudos to him, though. He's having a great year.
I think he's just a warm weather player. That's it, because he played at USC. So
that's true.
I think he's a warm. I can't think he came back to the West Coast, enjoyed the weather, and wasn't quite so brutal on him. And then now he's in Vegas, obviously, but no cold weather in Vegas. So I think plus they're playing inside, so it wouldn't matter. But I think that's what it really is attributed to. I just don't. I feel like certain players are cold weather players, and there's just guys that aren't. A lot of the guys from Texas and Florida and stuff like that, you can see how the cold affects them. Even the teams. We've seen the teams. I remember when back in the day when Tampa was going towards the Super Bowls a couple times. The worst thing I hated was that Philadelphia was good, and we always had to go to Philadelphia to play them and lost because it's just so damn cold. And nobody in Tampa has thick blood. So I think that's a big reason for him.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that game progresses. It's 10:30 in the second. And right now it looks like San Francisco is driving on the Washington football team. They're within the 5, I believe. They're in the 5. They're in the red zone. They're looking to score. And that game's at 0-0. That game's closer than I thought it would be, to start. I thought somebody was going to get off, to a quick start. But so far it's been a defensive battle.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what happens when you get the 4 and 6 out there, fourth and 6th best defenses in the league.
Right.
And then also a depleted San Francisco offense. So
right, and the Niners just scored, so it's 6-0 right now. But Mullins is doing a job for San Francisco. He's kind of just treading water. He's just treading.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's doing. And like I said, San Francisco's in a position where they could sneak in. There's a couple teams that if a few teams that are sitting above them, falter, they could slide and find themselves in a playoff spot. But right now, man, let's go ahead and let's call it the for the post-game show of the Bears and the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Two good games for our teams. Finally, we have. I mean, you a little more than I, but geez, 6 weeks, 6 weeks of hell.
Yeah, those are long runs when that drought happens and it lasts 6 weeks. It feels like an eternity.
Like I said, I'm not gonna go ahead and be like, "Woo, they won," but it's like they're gonna try. They will try. They will try to win. They're not like.
Well, I mean, we
this franchise. They're not gonna just lay down.
Right, but we said it. We spoke about it in the pregame. Of course, the defense is going to be jacked, and everybody on the team is going to be trying harder because half of them don't even know if they're going to be there next year. So, yep. I understand. Maybe some of these guys aren't playing to win; they're just playing to say, "Hey, look what I did last year. Give me a paycheck." You know what I mean? So, it's just the Bears. You know what I mean? Like it's just this Matt Nagy era, and that's the other thing about Chicago. It's like the coaching. You fire Lovey after he goes 10-6. I think that was a mistake. I still would have liked to see what John Fox would have done if he'd have stayed a little longer and maybe kept Fangio around a little more. Because I obviously I don't at that point I don't know if that they would have Mitch Trubisky, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like they. To me, like I said, there is no stellar quarterback that has ever played for the Chicago Bears. You need a guy that can be a 6 to 7, 8 year starter and win games.
Sid Luckman, the last guy. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. We will get to you guys at the. We'll skip the half. We'll go to the end of the game of the second half games. We'll get to you guys at the post game of the second half games, and of course tonight for our big Sunday night football game. That's going to be the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. Until then, guys, I'm Ivan Vargas. That's Luke Nettles. This has been the Basement Monsters Game Day podcast on Sports Zone Chicago.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Straight cash, homie.